Welcome to Prepare to Survive, Pinellas County's E-Series presentation on disaster preparedness. I'm your host, Tom Iovino of Pinellas County Communications Department. On previous episodes of this show, we have covered many different aspects of natural disasters, specifically hurricanes. But not all disasters are caused by Mother Nature. One possible scenario would be the release of hazardous materials, either by accident or on purpose, into the atmosphere. How would something like this be handled? Joining us today is Rick Stashowski, the Hazardous Materials Liaison with Clearwater Fire Rescue, to talk about the threat posed by these materials and how a release would be handled. Rick, welcome to Prepare to Survive. Thanks for coming out today.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
First of all, what is a hazardous material?
Well, a hazardous material is basically anything that will harm you or the environment. That's probably the easiest definition that you could come up with. So if it harms you or the environment, it is a hazardous material.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be airborne. It could be a liquid.
It could be liquid, solid, or gas. It doesn't make a difference. It could be in any one of those forms.
Okay, so it could be take any form, and that could anything that could potentially cause harm.
Absolutely, anything that will harm you or the environment.
Now, I mean, you talk about a hazardous material event. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things you have to consider. I mean, we're going into planning for responding to, and then actually getting the public ready if anything should happen.
True, and the difference is that we really don't have time to plan, if you will. Unlike a weather event where we have time to prepare, in a hazardous material incident, we don't have that time because it's an instantaneous type of an event. So our plan basically is as we go. The only things that we can plan for is what the material is and how we're going to handle that material. But weather factors in, wind direction, wind speed. It's going to determine where the source is going to go. Topography. If it's a liquid, it's going to run one way or another. It could run into the waterways. Then we need to get other people involved, such as the Coast Guard. So it's very difficult to plan in advance, not knowing exactly where the event is going to occur. So for us, it's an ongoing type preparedness. It's something that we do on a daily basis. It's a type of thing, and it could be something as small as a spill of a couple of gallons of gasoline, what could be considered a hazardous material release, or it could be a rail car, which we have traveling through the city on a daily basis, of chlorine. A totally different type situation, but handled similarly. So we'll be doing something of the same nature.
Now, you had mentioned something like a rail car going through the county filled with chlorine.
Sure.
I mean, what kind of materials do we have here at Pinellas County, and how close are we to some of these things?
It's a multitude of different chemicals. I couldn't even start to go down the alphabet because there are so many. And we are very close. It's amazing. If you just take a Home Depot, for example, the different types of hazardous materials that you would find at a Home Depot, it would just boggle your mind. Probably even something as little as what you would find under your sink at your home.
Really?
There are types of hazardous materials that you will find there. Now, we're not finding them in such great quantities as we would find at a chemical distribution plant, but you still have them. Probably the worst thing would be these small businesses that are operated out of the home, such as a furniture finishing business. You know, something like that, where they have a lot of different types of chemicals, strippers and that type of thing on site that we're not aware of. So it makes it a little more difficult for us because we can't really prepare for that.
Wow, I mean, you think about something that small. I mean, it's just a small shop where they're refinishing furniture, and if some of those chemicals get in touch with each other, you could conceivably see.
It could conceivably be a big disaster. And that's the other thing. One of the things that we talked about earlier was actually, preparing for a weather event, being able to evacuate people, getting them into a shelter. Well, for a hazardous materials event, we're not able to do that. We basically have to protect in place.
Okay, so the methyl ethyl bad stuff is blowing through the air. You don't want people to get out of their homes and go to a shelter.
No, absolutely not. It's better for us if they actually stay indoors, keep all their windows and doors closed, and actually shut off their HVAC, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning units, so that no outside air can come inside. They are truly safer in their own home than they are going out.
Wow, okay, so if there is a situation where there is this chemical release somewhere, that it just staying at home is the way to do it. Now,
absolutely.
We've seen people do things like, I don't know, put duct tape in their survival kits and plastic sheathing. I mean, is this something that, in the event of a spill or a disaster, they should be taping up windows?
No, they're really safe in their own home. The possibility of an outside airborne a chemical getting into somebody's dwelling is very limited, basically because of the atmosphere itself. A lot of these chemicals will actually, the minute they hit the air, they will dissipate. And wind is going to drive which way they're going to go. The sun is going to actually dissipate it a lot quicker. So it's not really a huge issue for them to actually have to, plastic and duct tape. That's not really an issue. More so just keep everything shut, stay inside until you get the all clear. Once you've gotten the all clear, you're fine.
Then we're back to business as usual.
Back to business as usual.
Wow, it's incredible. Now, you had mentioned that, you can't really plan ahead for these type of events like we could for a hurricane, but I imagine there's a tremendous amount of training that goes into the work of the firefighters who are handling these kind of incidents.
True, there is. There is quite a bit of training that goes on. And actually this month in Clearwater, for example, all of our firefighters are doing hazardous materials training as part of the monthly training that we do. And they're doing a scenario-based training where they're actually going out, identifying a chemical material and determining exactly what it is and how they would handle it. So it's an ongoing training all the time. I try to tell our individuals basically, if you see a placard or a label somewhere, take the time and just take the numbers down and then go back to the firehouse and open up your book and find out exactly what the material is. Because it's amazing how many different materials, as you said earlier, are actually being transported through the city on a daily basis.
It's incredible to think about. You've got a railroad corridor, you've got large trucks on the highways. And
truly is.
There's anything could happen.
Absolutely.
You never can tell. Now, I mean, I imagine working with large chemical distribution companies and other purveyors, larger quantities of these kinds of things. I imagine there must be some regulations and some inspection to take place.
There are, and that's actually a lot easier dealing with the ones that we know about because they have to notify us. There is something called the right to know law, and they have to notify us of all the chemicals that they have on site, and they have to have a material safety data sheet which explains exactly what the material is, what the byproducts of the material will be if it mixes with something else. So all that information is present for us, so we're able to do a good job on determining exactly how to deal with it.
So when you walk into a particular facility, you'll know what's in the inventory.
Exactly.
And I imagine that gives you guys the edge on handling it.
Truly does, truly does. Unlike something that we're going to find along the roadside in a 55-gallon drum that somebody just dumped. Not knowing exactly what it is, not having any labels on it, that's a lot more difficult for us.
Now, these distributors have to properly mark everything, but you had mentioned at the home. After all the years, I've lived in my house now for about 15 years, and I'm sure we've collected a large number of chemicals. We don't even know if some of them are even, still useful. What can a homeowner do to help reduce the possibility of a hazardous material release to their home?
Well, I know the county on a regular basis does an open cleanup, and basically they will open a distribution plant at a location where you can actually dump hazardous materials. So for those people, it's pretty good for us to be able to just have them take the materials that they have in their home and dispose of them at those locations. You can't just take these things and dump them in the garbage. You can't put them in a dumpster somewhere. It's much safer for us to actually take it to one of those sites when they have them open. And
by reducing the load of these chemicals in our homes, I'm sure if there's ever a fire or anything, it makes it a lot safer for everybody. It truly does, for everybody. And it will do a lot of good for the environment as well, which we're trying to do on a daily basis also. Hey, it's a win-win all around.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, I mean, I imagine something like a hazardous materials response team, must have some specialized equipment to protect everybody. I mean, what are some of the things you guys have to train with? What are some of the equipment?
Well, the Pinellas County has a hazardous material response team. They have many different types of meters for identifying different types of materials. They have many different types of suits to wear to protect them against any types of materials. We have several levels of clothing that we would have to wear in the case of a hazardous material release. There's a level A, which is a fully encapsulated suit, and everything is kept within so that if it's a vapor type material, it can't even get into your skin. Level B is a little less than that, and level C, a little less than that. So they have those types of equipment, and our fire department units carry gas meters with them.
Okay.
It's a 4-gas meter. It will determine exactly if it's an airborne type material, it will determine exactly what that material is.
Okay, so this way when a firefighter from some city rolls up on a scene, they can pull out this meter and then they know whether or not they need to call on the HazMat team to handle the situation.
That's correct.
We had talked about accidental releases for a while, and we don't want to think about this in today's world, but the potential for an intentional release of these chemicals is out there. I mean, what do you guys undergo any sort of training for this kind of possibility, or?
Yeah, there is quite a bit of training out there. Department of Homeland Security has provided an immense amount of training for that purpose, basically for the first responders to be able to protect themselves. They rolled out a plan, I would say probably about 15 years ago, for all police departments for their first responders.
Okay.
They provided them with protective gas masks, protective clothing, and I was involved in doing the training for the police departments. So they were a little more prepared than what they were prior to that. And this was just after 9/11, actually,
sure.
that they really rolled out everything. And it's something that they have done on a regular basis ever since. They have opened up their training for anybody who is interested in taking it on the first responder level, and given us a pretty good background on what we could be dealing with on an intentional type release.
Yeah, we don't ever think about that, but the potential is always out there.
It sure is.
Rick, you've done HazMat for a while now. I mean, are there any incidents that particularly stand out as being large ones or ones you remember?
There were a lot of them. I think every incident that we respond to, as a firefighter, a lot of people, and when I teach it to the younger firefighters, I specify to them that it's the ones that we don't think about that are probably the worst ones. Just responding to a structure fire nowadays is totally different than what it was, 30 years ago when I started. A structure fire nowadays, you've got plastics that are involved. Mm-hmm. You've got different types of foams that are involved. The backing of a carpeting is very toxic. It produces hydrogen cyanide in a fire situation.
Wow.
So the gases that we deal with on a structure fire are a lot more dangerous than most people would think. So we have to just watch out for them. So any incident that we respond to, we consider it to be a hazardous material incident.
Really? Even just the smallest fire, you always go in with that thought in mind?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wow, just unbelievable. When you're out there in the community, I mean, do you get a lot of do you do a lot of education among the residents about what they need to know? Or
we don't get a lot of a chance to do it amongst the residents, but we get a better chance to do it amongst the firefighters and try and keep them to a level to where they're proficient at what they're doing. And I think that we're at a point now where the first responders are very well educated and know exactly what to do in the case of any type of a release of hazardous material.
Well, that's the best thing to know about. We've got about a minute left, Rick. Is there anything you want the citizens to know specifically? What's the most important thing you want them to know about hazardous materials?
I think the most important thing is to just be aware. Be aware of the fact that they're present every day. They're present in our home. They're present in our life. Just be aware of the fact that they're there. And if something does happen, don't forget, protect in place. Stay indoors. Don't open the doors or windows, and keep yourself safe.
It's not necessarily the same message we give out for hurricanes, but it's still valuable information nonetheless.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, the whole show is called Prepare to Survive, so it doesn't matter what the threat is, just be ready.
That's it.
Thank you so much for coming out today, Rick. This has been a lot of fun
and
a lot really educational. If you'd like to see a repeat of this presentation or read the questions, please visit www.pinellascounty.org/eSeries. If you'd like more information on how to prepare for hurricanes or other potential disasters, visit the Pinellas County Emergency Management homepage at www.pinellascounty.org/emergency. And if you have any questions about today's topic, be sure to send an email to ema@pinellascounty.org, and we will get back with you. Join us again for the next Prepare to Survive eSeries. Stay safe.